The Athlete's Dilemma by Sam N. The Athlete's Dilemma is clearly demonstrated within the 2024 stimulus materials, specifically highlighted in Simone Biles' story. While competing in the 2021 Olympics, Biles faced mental and physical pain, causing her to drop out. As author Marcus Thompson states, waking up Tuesday to learning that Biles withdrew from the gymnastics team final in Tokyo was shocking. This Olympics felt like the coronation of Biles the legend. We learned a few things from this quote. Number one being that nobody expected Biles to drop out. This was shocking to the world. And number two is that this year felt like the coronation of Biles the legend. This year she would have cemented herself as an all-time great. This proves that Simone Biles was extremely courageous by dropping out for the better of her health. So, what is the athlete's dilemma? This dilemma contains multiple steps. First, professional athletes get injured in a game or practice, or face mental hardships, as seen in the story of Simone Biles. This will cause them to sit out games or competitions. And then, when that happens, the athlete begins to face intense pressure from fans, coaches, teammates, and etc. Next, this stress to perform can affect the athlete's mental health, as well as convince them to return to playing very often before they are ready. Then, the athlete re-injures themselves and consequently gain larger, much worse injuries than what they had before. This leads to a non-stop cycle. A way this can be avoided is through moral courage. Ted Thomas, who is the director of the Department of Command and Leadership in the U.S. Army, and Ira Shallard, who is the president of Executive Coaching and Consulting in Washington, D.C., give an example of moral courage, which can be compared to an athlete. Soldiers must follow orders of whoever is highest in command, just how athletes must follow the orders of the doctor when to return. However, as stated by Ted Thomas, when certain circumstances have changed, a soldier must disobey orders to complete a mission. Just as the doctor may clear an athlete to play, however, the athlete must use his or her own judgment on when to return. Injuries, in result, have a huge impact on winning. As stated by ESPN's Tom Haverstraw and Baxter Holmes, dating back to 1978, losers in the finals have suffered 2.5 more injuries to key players than the champions. This shows that the team with more injuries is much more likely to lose, based on circumstances they can't control. Athletes face tremendous amounts of pressure to return to the playing field. J.B. Robbins, who has her PhD in sports psychology, states that athletes face tremendous, intense pressure to return to play when they're injured. She later goes on to claim that athletes are supposed to be tough and maintain a positive attitude while playing through pain. Both of these quotes show that society has unrealistic expectations for professional athletes, showing that sometimes we disregard them as human beings who need to heal and recover. If an athlete were to succumb to the outside pressure and return to playing prematurely, they face many impending consequences. When injured, an athlete must have time to fully recover, especially in modern times when sports have very demanding schedules. Baxter Holmes, who has his bachelor's degree in journalism, as well as over 6 years of experience in the world of professional sports, states that the constant schedule of the NBA, as well as the fear of letting down teammates, can lead to athletes returning to the game prematurely, consequently resulting in even more injuries. Often, these injuries can be career-ending. Dan Fabel, a professional writer for the National Basketball Association, reveals 25 NBA careers that were tragically cut short due to injuries, many of which were caused by constant overtime injuries that worsened the more the athlete played. Some of these injuries include Yao Ming, a 7.5-foot Hall of Famer, and Brandon Roy, a top player of his position in the early 2010s, showing that even the best players can face severe injuries and hardships. Jennifer Prud, Giorgio Zappieri, and Stephen George wrote that patients who did not return to the sport at the same level prior to injury had a higher fear of re-injury, showing the true mental impact of returning from injury. On the other hand, some people may argue that it is more important for the athlete to make a swift return. They may claim that whenever physically able, the athlete should be playing for their team. Mainly, this argument is worried that sitting out for extended periods of time can result in negative effects on the mental health of players and hinder confidence. As stated by Jamie Robbins, athletes are expected to be tough and have a positive mindset while consistently competing through discomfort. They should be determined to get back to playing as soon as possible if an injury prevents them from doing so. This is proof of the mindsets that many people have, believing that it is more important to provide entertainment for the fans than for their own health. However, this idea ignores all of the long-term effects that could take place on these athletes. As proven earlier, playing through injuries can cause long-term, career-ending injuries. It's not always just because of a minor discomfort. Entering the game too soon can cause permanent damage. Then, as this assumption becomes more and more popular, it could normalize the idea of athletes playing through injuries, which will exponentially multiply the current injury problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, how did some preliminary information you gathered inform your research?
So some preliminary information I gathered was about certain NBA players, specifically NBA, who have gotten injuries and returned too early. I've watched NBA for most of my life, so this was an interesting topic to me. So when I researched this, it really popped out and helped with my research.
Okay. And then what additional questions emerged from your research, and why are these questions important?
One additional question that emerged from my research was how a coach would feel specifically about their athlete returning to play, because sitting out for extended periods of time as a coach could really worsen the team, especially if they're a key player. But also, if you start the player too early, they could get a worse injury, which will cause them to sit out even longer. And this is very important because a coach is one of the closest players, or closest people to an athlete, so their opinion is very important.
Okay, thank you.